for it. So first we have var lives is equal to 2, which sets the number of initial lives to 2. And we have score is equal to 0, which has the initial score of 0, which is then added on later. Enemies is an array, which we use to get the varied enemies. We eventually plug in values into this array. Var enemy random creates the x values. Enemy size is the location of the center of each enemy. Enemy speed 3, which is the speed at which enemies move down the screen. This is set at 3 initially, and it stays at 3 until your score hits 300, and then it'll go up by 3 each time. So, or until it gets to 900. So at 600, it'll go to 6, and then after that, it goes to 9. Then we have bullets, which is an array, which acts in a similar way to enemies. T is equal to 0, which is pretty much a placeholder in the clock. Then shoot is equal to false, so this controls the rate at which a player can shoot by doing this. So the up arrow is shoot, then the left and right arrows are moved side to side. So that is set shoot, and then X and Y. So those are the X and Y values within the game itself. So we have two, we create the spaceships twice. So we have one within the game itself using these X and Y, which we then use later on, and then another time outside of it with these two moving across, and then the ones right here in the option screen. And this is because the variables act differently. So we decided that this would be the easiest way to do it. So then we have X speed, which controls the rate at which the ship moves across when you press the left and right arrows. So it moves across at 11, which gives you enough time to get out of the way and move around, especially when the ships get a little quicker. But for now it's 0. So when a button is not pressed, it is equal to 0. And then for var hit is false, it determines if the player has been hit by an enemy. So then var number of stars is equal to 150. So that's the number of stars which are on here, and that is used later on in a for loop to create the amount of stars that we see here. Current scene 0, so that's the splash screen, and then so splash screen is 0, the choice screen is 1, the games screen is 2, and then the tutorial scene is 3. Then character X, so that's, like I said, how there's two creation or two different instances of each ship. So character X is the X and Y for this ship here, and the one in the start in the splash screen. Same thing for character Y, it's this ship. And then ship X and ship Y are for the X-wing in both the choose your ship and the start screen. Then ship speed random. This is just the ship speed at the start scene. Var F is create font. I found on Khan a way to change the font. So did that in the start screen. So that's why this Galaga looks a little different. Then ship counter is used in this right here. So if I hit this will change the ship counter to 1, and then this will change it to 2 to create a different ship or to select a different ship. And then later on when I call each ship to play, and I have a conditional. So if ship counter is equal to 1, it'll select this ship, and if ship counter is equal to 2, it'll select this one. So then move X1 and move X2 is for the Bitmoji later on in the game. It'll appear as like a little thing in the corner saying like nice job or great job when you get to 6, I think it's like 500 and 600, when your score gets to 500 or 600. So first we have draw a tie, which draws this spaceship here and the one on the choice screen as well. And then the X-wing is this ship, and the one on the choice screen as well. And as you can see, there's different variables here, ship X and ship Y. Right here, this is for the stars. So we went with a similar way, or we initially did we used the Khan raindrop assignment, and the goal was originally to switch up the colors, switch up the orientation so they would come down. Or it was originally the goal was to switch the color and switch the orientation so it would go across, but we eventually decided down. But then as we were looking up, ways that we could create this program, we found a instance of it like looking like 3D. So to do this, we have a speed variable which keeps them going down at random speeds, and then we have a size variable. So they're different sizes. They appear further up and further back, which really looks much better than the raindrops in Con. So over here we have a prototype. So we have the constructor here, the prototype, and then this is calling, this is pushing a new star into the array of our stars, and then this is showing up on the screen every time. So now right here we have the con button. This is the constructor of the button. And right here we have the prototype, which is the basis for which each button is built off of. Right here we have the first button, which starts the game by sending the player to the choice screen, and then this one, button 2, is how to play. And then the press, and then the press with a square or press with a circle is because we will present the game with the use of a controller. So we have a controller, so people can play on the controller. So that's why we have the start press square, and then how to play press circle. And these you can see the outline where the stars stop. That's the actual size of the button. So anywhere inside of that works as the button. We just made it black for appearances. For button 3 is the same as button 1 right here, but it's in the tutorial screen. Button 4 it selects the X-Wing, and then button 5 selects the TIE Fighter. And button 6 then starts it by pressing this. And then this right here determines like if you're in scene 1, you can only click buttons 1 and 2. And if you're in scene 1, or if you're in scene 0, you can only click 1 and 2. Scene 1, 4, 5, and 6, which is the choice screen. In scene 3, you can only click the 1, which is the tutorial scene. Then this is the clock here. So we have t plus equal to 1, and then so t is divided by 4, and then it checks to see if the remainder is 0, and to see if shoot is true. So then shoot is false, and then t is equal to 0. So this creates the break in the shot. So it's not instant. So you have a little bit of a break. So it's not just like you can hold it down or instantly press as fast as you can. You do have an equal break every time, which is from this. And then here you can see if I'm hit once, let me go over here. So the ship disappears, and that's what happens there. So hit is equal to false, and then t is reset to 0. Then we have the in-game stats, which appear on the top. So do this, and then so you have the score, which is going to go up by 10 each time, and then you have the lives, which goes down by 1 every time I'm hit. Then the player function. So this is this moves the X. This just sets it later on. Then we constrain the X to so you can't move off screen. And then this is the if ship counter is equal to 1 or it's equal to 0. So in case you forget to click a ship and hit start, you'll start with a ship. So this is going to draw the X-Wing or the TIE Fighter, and then ship 2 is going to draw the X-Wing. And then so if hit is true, so that means if the ship is hit, the clock will start, getting the delay. So this is all within the player function right here. Then this is all explained in all the code right here. And then the ship is only drawn if lives are greater than 1, which is part of this up here as well. If lives are less than 1, or if lives are greater than 1, I mean. So then down here, if enemy's drawn, so this is just the drawing of the enemy with the image X and image Y variables, which are used for the enemy throughout. And then we have bullet draw, which draws the bullet. So these are just what they look like. And then for enemy control, this is moving, like this creates everything that is needed to move the enemy left and right, hit the enemy, and then check, this distance we found in the con documentation is used to control like where or if the enemy's hit, or if you the player are hit, so lives are minus and it hits true, which sends you to the clock. stops the speed. And then here, this is the enemy score increasing. So if score, is 300, enemy speed will go up by 3, and if it's 600, it'll go up by 3 again to reach 9. Down here for bullet control, it's a similar thing to the enemy thing where it controls bullet movement. It moves the bullets off screen, and if shoot is true, it'll equal the clock, or the clock runs, so which gives you the bullet delay also. Now this is the enemy constructor right here, which we then push into the array to create new enemies. So this is this implements the random x values between 30 and 570, and then the random y values between 1 and negative 20, which gets them moving in, off screen or at a staggered pace, and across the screen as well, but all within the range that they can be shot and hit by the player. Here, if key is pressed, you're going to move minus x. So if key code is equal to 37, which is the left key, x speed will go down by 11. Otherwise, it'll increase by 11 if you hit the right key. And then this right here is for the controller. So you can hit a button on it, and the scene will change. Right here, if key is released, so if the keys are released, the left and right arrow keys speed is going to equal 0. Right here, this is the bullet constructor to push new bullets into the bullet array, which we saw above, which creates the constant stream of bullets right here that are independent from the ship, which is one of the issues we were initially having. Then here we just get into the draw bitmojis. So I have my bitmoji here with all the variables in it, and then or all the functions in it, and then eventually they all come together all the way down here to create the draw bitmoji function. And this is Matt's bitmoji here. So yeah, this is the code just describing that this draws the bitmojis. And then we have the start screen, which has all the text, ships move across, the buttons, the thing if the conditional statements to determine if character X is 550, then we're gonna change the speed to negative, and then if it's less than 50, it's gonna change the speed to positive, which gets it moving back and forth, pretty much bouncing off the edge each time. And the same thing for the X-Wing 2. So this is the TIE Fighter, and this is the X-Wing. Then we have Bitmoji appear. So this is going to appear during the game to implement the Bitmoji. This is the best option we found to implement it into the actual game. We have the pictures of them on the tutorial scene, but as you play on in this, you are going to see that at 400, the Bitmoji will appear to say good job, or my Bitmoji will appear. So there, nice job, and then it's going to stay up there till we hit 500 or the game is over, so it disappears. And then if it's 600, Matt's Bitmoji will appear, and if it gets to 700, it'll disappear. So this is what this does, and pretty much we use that move X1 for me, and then move X2 for Matt's Bitmoji to move it off screen also. Then here we have the game over function, which is pretty much when the lives are equal to 0. You get the text saying game over with the background, the star background. And then you have your score down here. And then, of course, you have the star background using the star array right here. Then there's the how to play scene, which is just a bunch of text saying, do this, and with goal, the buttons, and then the draw bitmojis. We don't have the draw bitmojis in the splash screen, because if we do, for some reason the game, it just does not run. It runs incredibly slow. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why it doesn't work, but it doesn't. So we did the next best thing is put them here and then in the actual game itself. So in here we have the game scene, which with all the things above, like all the functions above contained within here, so then they work within the game scene. Then here's the spaceship choice, which is right here. So with the buttons, the drawing of the spaceships, and then the star background, and then the text, and then here's a draw function with with if. So you have the background of the stars. Then you have each of these current scenes right here. So like if current scene is equal to 0, start screen is going to run. Otherwise, choice screen or game scene um, with the game stats on it, or the how to play scene. And then if live is equal to 0, start is equal to false. So it turns off the game, and then game is over.